She turned, and her blood ran cold. He was standing right behind her, in the garden of a charity gala in Seoul, Korea. After everything she survived, after the year she spent clawing her way out of the life he dragged her into, he was standing right there, like a ghost that refused to stay buried. He started toward her before she could move. "You think you could run from me? To Korea? You owe me. Do you know how much you've cost me?" His hand struck her face. Her head snapped sideways, her lips split. She tasted blood before she even felt the pain. He grabbed her dress, fabric tearing in his fist, and yanked her toward him. She fought, she clawed, she twisted free and ran, back through the corridor, back toward the lights, her lip bleeding, her dress torn, her heart pounding in her throat. She burst through the doors of the main hall and ran straight into a wall of chest. Hands caught her, steadied her, and then Ryujin, the most feared man in Korea, looked down at her face, and something inside him broke open. The cold control, the iron composure, the man who never lost control of anything. For a moment, all of it cracked. His voice came out quiet, deadly. "Who did this to you?" Not a question, a verdict. She looked up at him, shaking. "Damon is here." And the last trace of control left his eyes. If you have ever wondered what it looks like when the most feared man in Korea finally loses control, stay with me, because this is that story. But to understand what happens next, we have to go back to the beginning. Drop your city in the comments. I want to know where in the world you're watching from. Now let me show you how it all started. She used to look at the sky before she went in. Every night, before pushing through that door, Imaka paused on the pavement outside and looked up, not praying, not hoping, just looking, at the open air, at something with no ceiling, no walls, no hands on it. Then she went inside. Her name was Imaka. In Igbo, her mother's language, her grandmother's language, the language she still dreamed in, Imaka meant beautiful. Her mother chose it deliberately. The day she was born, she held her toward the hospital window and said the name like she was stating a fact. Her parents were gone now. A plane, a Tuesday, a phone call that rewired everything. But the name remained, and so did she, because Imaka had two younger siblings in Nigeria, Namdi and Chisom, being raised by their grandmother, with the money Imaka sent home every week without fail. As long as they counted on her, falling apart was not an option. That was the agreement she had made with herself. She had tried everything first. People who had never been poor, never alone in a foreign country poor, sometimes imagined what happened to Imaka was a shortcut. There was nothing easy about it. When she arrived in America, she worked 2 jobs, sometimes 3, salon assistant, waitress, babysitter, anything honest she could find. She sent money home every week, even when the math barely worked. On the side, she tried selling her art, fashion illustrations, figures in motion, fabric that seemed to breathe on the page. She carried a folder everywhere, approached galleries, set up on street corners, emailed people she had no business emailing. Nobody stopped. Nobody bought enough to matter. She applied for scholarships, researched every grant she could find. Med school had been the plan, the reason she crossed an ocean. But without parents, without backing, without stability, the numbers never worked. And then Damon appeared. He was charming the way some things are charming, all surface. She said no the first time. Then one of her siblings needed money urgently. Something small that became enormous because there was no safety net underneath it. And the salon wasn't enough, so she tried it once, just once. That's always how it starts. It was a Tuesday. She woke with the same deep ache in her body, ribs, shoulder, the tender skin above her eye. Damon had broken his rule the night before. His rule, stated casually once, was that he didn't hit the girls in the face. Their faces were money. The fact he had a rule like that told you how he saw them. Inventory. But he'd been angry enough to break it. She filed that away somewhere cold and quiet inside herself and got up. Because it was Tuesday, and Tuesday was for sending money home. The makeup went on carefully, layer by layer over the bruise. Lydia watched from the edge of the bed, silent, handing her a different brush without being asked. That small gesture was their entire friendship. When Imaka finished, she studied herself in the mirror. She thought about the girl who arrived in America with a folder of art and a perfect plan. Pre-med. Doctor. Enough money to bring her siblings over someday. Then the phone call came on a Tuesday, years ago, and the map burned in her hands. She had tried everything. She was not lazy, not careless, not weak. She was alone, the math didn't work, and the wrong man found her at the right time. So here she was. She inhaled slowly. Not forever, just tonight. Tonight paid for school fees. Tonight kept her siblings fed and believing their sister was doing well in America. She straightened her spine, put the smile on, and walked out. 10,000 miles away, Ryujin was already awake. He had grown up with nothing. An illegitimate son, a father who built another life and pretended the first never existed. His mother raised him alone with quiet iron dignity. From her he learned how not to break. From the world he learned everything else. He built his empire from scratch. Legitimate companies above, invisible operations underneath. Fashion was one of the legitimate arms. New York Fashion Week was why he was here. Business, nothing else. He sat front row at the show. Energy spun through the room. Expensive people, flashing cameras, the electricity of an industry built on being seen. Ryujin missed nothing. His face gave away nothing. After the show came a meeting. Someone had been skimming. Ryujin listened, asked 2 questions, spoke 4 sentences. The men across the table were terrified. He was calm, not composure, architecture. Later, a contact mentioned a club. Somewhere real conversations happened after official ones ended. Ryujin went, Junho went with him. The club was loud and dark, designed to feel secret. Ryujin sat in VIP, drink in hand. He wasn't really drinking. He watched the room the way he always watched rooms, out of habit, almost bored. Then the lights shifted, the music deepened, and she walked out. She didn't move like the other women. There was performance, yes, but underneath it was something else, something real. Ryujin's glass paused halfway to his mouth. He noticed her body, but what held him was her face. Her smile was perfect, professional, but her eyes were somewhere else entirely, cold, distant, absent. The eyes of someone who had learned to send the real version of herself somewhere safe, while this version handled business. He had seen eyes like that before, on men who had survived terrible rooms, never on a woman dancing. She turned once beneath the light, just for a second. Her eyes met his across the room. No smile, no performance, just recognition. Then the mask returned. Ryujin set his glass down. I want her sent to my room. 2 bodyguards stood outside his hotel door. Imaka paused. Not fear, calculation. 2 guards meant something specific. She adjusted the way she carried herself and knocked. The door opened. He was tall, filling the doorway easily. Korean. Sharp lines, carved jaw, but it was his eyes that stopped her. Dark, still, unreadable. He stepped aside immediately, giving her space. No performance, just space. She entered, taking in the quiet of the room, the stillness of him. They looked at each other for a moment. Then he gestured toward the seating and sat, unhurried. She studied the room one more second before sitting. "Food first," he said. "What would you actually want right now, if you could have anything?" Nobody asked her that. She named a Nigerian dish, half truth, half test. He picked up the phone and ordered it exactly as she described. When the food arrived, she looked at the table, then the floor, and sat on the floor with the tray. He watched without comment. Then he joined her on the floor. She stared at him. This man with the bodyguards and the whiskey, sitting cross-legged like it was normal. She tasted the food. Her eyes closed briefly. "Oh," she murmured, "that is actually very good." He said nothing, just watched her eat. She noticed. "Stop staring at me." "I'm not staring. You are absolutely staring." A pause. "You have a very interesting face." She blinked. "What?" He swirled his whiskey. "Everyone in a room like this is performing something. You're the only person tonight who is somewhere else entirely." She didn't answer. Just took another bite. At some point she realized she had stopped managing herself. Stopped calculating every movement. She was simply sitting on a hotel floor, eating food that tasted like home with a stranger watching her, like she mattered. It felt like her first real exhale in years. "When do we get down to business?" she asked eventually. "That's not why I asked for you." She stared. "Then why?" "I wanted someone to talk to." She laughed before she could stop herself. "You're serious?" "Completely." "Fine," she said. "Talk." She did. At first cautiously, waiting for the angle. He never had one. Eventually, she stopped waiting. She talked about her parents, about the house before the crash, her mother's cooking, her father's laugh. He listened, really listened. She talked about med school, the plan, the numbers that never worked. "How much have you saved?" he asked quietly. She told him. He did the math instantly. He didn't say what it meant. He didn't need to. She already knew. She kept talking. About Namdi and Chisholm. Something changed in her face when she said their names. Warmth. Life. "Namdi wants to be an engineer," she said. "He takes apart everything. Our grandmother is going to kill him one day." "And Chisholm?" 12. Already argues like a lawyer. "I've decided that's her future." "You light up when you talk about them," he said. She looked away. "They're the reason for everything." The room went quiet. "What about you?" she asked. "That feels uneven." He considered. Then he told her about his father, the man who chose not to claim him, about what that kind of rejection does. It doesn't break you, it makes you build. He said it simply. No self-pity. She listened the way he had listened to her. When he finished, she said softly, "That sounds very lonely." He held her gaze. It was. Later he said it casually. "This man you work for, do you want him to disappear? I can make that happen." The chill ran through her. She understood immediately what kind of businessman he was. She laughed lightly. "I can take care of myself." He nodded once. "What do you actually do?" she asked. "Businessman," he said. She shook her head and returned to her food. Around 4 a.m., her voice slowed. She was talking about her sister when the sentence faded. Her eyes closed, and she fell asleep. Mid-sentence, on the floor. He sat very still. Without the performance smile, her face looked younger, softer, safe. He covered her with a blanket, then moved to the chair by the window. He didn't sleep. When morning light crept in, he wrote a note, left a card, left money, and walked out before she woke. She woke to an empty room. The note first. Thanks for last night. Then the money. $10,000. She counted it twice. Then the card. She memorized the number before hiding it, just in case. Back at Damon's place, Lydia saw her face and said nothing. Something had changed. Imaka was almost smiling. Not the performance smile, the real one. Damon took all the money. Of course he did. But the card was already hidden, and the number was already permanent behind her eyes. She would keep it there for the next year, through everything, just in case. Because neither of them knew it yet. But that night, in the hotel room had already changed both of their lives, and the next time they met, nothing would be the same. The FBI does not announce itself. It moves quietly. And then suddenly whatever world it has been watching collapses. The warning came in the middle of the night. Federal heat, move everything. Now. By morning they were in a van. New city. Smaller. Darker. The windows in the new place had coverings that never came down. Damon was not afraid. Damon was angry. And when Damon was angry, everyone around him paid for it. The new place was tighter in every sense. Less space, less movement, less of the small, invisible margins Imaka had been using just to breathe. The drugs had started before the move. Slowly. The way things begin when someone wants you not to notice until it is too late. Lydia was already using. Imaka had watched it happen with the quiet horror of someone who understood exactly what she was seeing and could do nothing about it. She resisted. But resistance requires resources, sleep, stability, the ability to keep your guard fully up. Damon was very good at making sure the people around him had none of those things. The hours were designed to exhaust. The isolation was deliberate, total. One night, hollowed completely out, someone put something in her hand and told her it would help. She said she would try it once. She had said that before. About something else. In a different life. The drug filled the spaces survival had carved out of her. It made the nights manageable. It made what she was doing feel further away. Like it was happening to another version of herself. One she could afford to abandon. That was the trap. That was always the trap. The day jobs disappeared. The money she sent home slowed. She still called her family, forced herself to, constructed the bright voice version of Imaka from whatever pieces she still had left. She lifted her voice, asked about her siblings, pretended her life still had room for ordinary things. Then she would hang up, and the silence afterward was the worst silence of all. In Korea, Ryujin's life continued with the precision of a machine. Meetings, flights, decisions that moved millions. But sometimes, in the quiet spaces between one thing and the next, in the backseat of a car late at night, she surfaced. Her eyes, the real ones, the ones he'd seen after 3 a.m., the fact that she had never called. Each time he pushed the thought away, but things that keep returning are usually saying something a person is not ready to hear. Back in that small, dark place, Imaka was learning something she never wanted to learn. She was not unbreakable. She had believed there was a core inside her Damon could never reach. It was still there, but it was getting harder to find. The beatings had a rhythm, not random. Damon used violence the way he used everything else, as a tool, measured, calibrated, designed to produce obedience. She wore long sleeves, moved carefully around healing ribs. The card she kept hidden on her body through everything. The number burned permanently into her memory, just in case. Then one night came that was different, not in kind, in scale, in the cold, methodical thoroughness of it. When it was over, she lay on the floor, broken ribs, her body a document of everything the last year had written into it. Lydia came in, sat beside her on the floor, did not ask questions. She simply tended to what could be tended to, her hands careful, practiced, because she had done this before, for other girls, for herself. They looked at each other, and in that look was the full distance of the last year. Something settled inside Imaka, low, quiet, final. If I stay, he will kill me. The path Damon was on had an ending, and now she could see it clearly. I have to run. She waited. Patience was the one thing Damon had accidentally taught her. She healed. She became quieter, more obedient. The version of herself that made him trust her just a little more than he should. She watched, studied the patterns, waited for the moment. It came during a routine drop. The driver had made the trip with her many times now. The silence between them was comfortable, predictable. She had become reliable. The kind of girl who got out, did what she was told, and came back. He trusted that. He would not be the last person Damon trusted too much. The car pulled up. She stepped out, walked toward the building, just like always. Then she stopped, turned, and ran. Not toward anything, just away, into the unfamiliar dark. Her ribs screamed. She ran anyway, because if she didn't run now, she would never run. She found a payphone near a bus station. Her hands shook so badly she struggled to feed the coins in. The card was worn soft from a year against her skin, but the number was still there. She dialed. 1 ring, 2, 3. She held her breath. Then, hello. His voice, quiet, controlled. 2 syllables that carried weight. Her throat closed. She managed 2 words. Help me. A pause, then his voice returned, sharper now. Stay on the line. Tell me exactly where you are. She told him, every word shaking. For a moment there was silence on the line, not hesitation, calculation. Then his voice moved away from the receiver. Who do we have in Dallas? A muffled response somewhere in the background. Find her. Now. The line went quiet again. Imaka's grip tightened around the phone. Her eyes moved constantly. The parking lot, the street, the shadows near the building. Every second felt like someone might step out of them. Then his voice came back. Imaka. I'm here. Listen to me. Stay on the line. Don't hang up until I tell you. She nodded before realizing he couldn't see her. Her chest was rising too fast. I'm scared, she whispered. His voice didn't change. I know. A pause. Then quietly, I've got you. Something inside her steadied. Not calm, but steadier. Seconds stretched. She kept looking over her shoulder, waiting for a car, for footsteps, for Damon. Then his voice came again. Imaka. Yes? Look up the street. She did. 2 men were walking toward her from the corner. Her breath caught. I see them. Good. A beat. Run toward them. She ran. They opened the car door. She got inside. The street. The payphone. Everything behind her faded away. She cried quietly. The first real tears in a very long time. She had kept one thing, and it had been enough. They took her to a hotel. A doctor came. Concussion. Broken ribs. Bruises that told the story without needing words. He did not ask questions. He was not that kind of doctor. She changed in the bathroom with the door locked. Habit. Automatic. For the first time in months, she looked at herself in a mirror. She looked exactly like what had happened to her. She studied it just long enough to confirm the truth. Then she sat on the bed, waiting. In the unfamiliar silence of a room where nothing bad was happening. A silence she had almost forgotten existed. The door opened just before midnight. She knew it was him before she even saw him. The room changed. Ryujin had taken his private jet. That night, his men stepped outside without being told. Then it was just the two of them. The year between New York and this moment was written across her body. The thinness, the bruises, eyes that had gone somewhere deeper, more guarded. He looked at her, took everything in, did not look away. His jaw tightened, his fists slowly closed. The rage was there, held completely still. The way you hold something dangerous, until it can be directed somewhere specific. He crossed the room, sat in front of her, at her level. "You are safe," he said quietly. "No one will ever hurt you again." She broke, not loudly, not dramatically. Something simply gave way. She folded inward, crying from somewhere deep inside her chest. He placed a hand gently on her back, steady, present, demanding nothing, and he stayed. She cried until there was nothing left. Then she sat quietly, the quiet of someone who had finally set something very heavy down. The second time she woke in the night, he was still there, in the chair by the window, not sleeping, just present. He looked at her across the room, said nothing. The fact that he was still there said everything. She lay back down. This time she slept until morning. He took her hand when they walked to the car. Not romantic, the way you guide someone walking across uncertain ground. On the jet she sat by the window. When the plane lifted off, she watched the city shrink, lights becoming patterns, then darkness. For the first time in a long time, she was above it. Exhaustion finally took her, deep and complete. She slept the entire flight. He watched her, and did not look away until they landed. In Korea, he took her directly to a rehabilitation center. He sat with her before anyone else entered. "This will not be easy," he told her. "It will be the hardest period of your life, but you need it. For yourself, for your siblings. I will visit every week. You have my direct number. Call me anytime." He stood. Before leaving, he looked at her once more, not assessing, seeing. She sat alone in the quiet room and breathed. She was alive. She was in Korea. And she was about to walk into the hardest months of her life, because Tuesday was still for her siblings. And for the first time in a long time, Tuesday was coming. Recovery was not a montage. It was grinding, humiliating, real. The withdrawal, the shaking, the nightmares that were barely different from memory. Sometimes the craving felt bigger than the room, bigger than her. The only thing stronger was the image of her siblings. She held their faces in her mind like a shield and survived one more hour. That was the unit of survival. Not days, hours. Her hands eventually found something to do. Thread, cord, small things built during the hardest hours. Ryujin came every week. At first the visits were brief, formal, then gradually longer. The formality melted slowly, the way ice gives first at the edges. They found again the quiet rhythm they had discovered that first night in New York. "You sound different," her sister Chisholm told her on one call. "Different how?" "Like yourself." Imaka sat with that for a long time. The bracelet started as something to do with her hands during the worst hours. When the cravings felt bigger than the room, she tied another knot. When the shaking started, she tied another. By the third month, there were several of them in the small drawer beside her bed. She kept only one. One Tuesday during the third month, he arrived for his weekly visit. She held out her hand. Inside it was a bracelet. Simple cord, imperfect knots. Something made during the hardest hours. "I made this for you," she said. He took it, put it on his wrist, and looked at it the way people look at something they intend to keep. She had gone in broken and come out the other side of something. The apartment was quiet, ordinary quiet, the kind that belongs to a space that is yours and only yours, where nothing is required of you and no one is watching. She had insisted on paying him back. "If you want to pay me back," he said, "work hard, that is all." The drawing started quietly, almost by accident, a pen, a notepad. Her hand moved before she gave it permission. She did not sleep much in those first weeks, so she drew instead. Through the nights that were too loud inside her head, the notepads filled, African silhouettes reimagined through lines she had absorbed in Korea, Nigerian, bold, structural, color used without apology. Korean, precise, architectural, the beauty of restraint. In her hand, they did not clash. They spoke to each other. They made something. Neither one was alone. He came to visit one afternoon and stopped in the doorway. Every flat surface covered. He moved through the apartment, slowly, picking up one sketch, then another, turning them in the light. Studying the lines the way someone studies something they are trying to understand fully. She watched from across the room, the specific vulnerability of having someone look at the thing you made when you were not performing. He set the last one down. "Your talent is wasting on notepads." 2 days later, he came back with proper materials, sketch paper, quality markers, drawing tools. He set them down without a speech. "Thank you," she said. "Work," he said. And she did. Some weeks later, he mentioned the fashion company, one of his legitimate businesses, on the 30th floor of his building. "I want to get it on my own," she said immediately. "No connection. I walk in the same as anyone else." "I know," he said. And the way he said it told her he had already understood. He was opening a door and stepping back. She spent 3 days on her portfolio. Then she went in. She was early. She sat in the lobby with her portfolio on her lap, waiting to be called up. Then the energy of the building changed. She felt it before she saw it. Conversations lowering, posture adjusting, the whole atmosphere recalibrating around a center of gravity. He walked in. She had seen him in visiting rooms and small apartments, but this was different. This was his world receiving him. The men in that lobby went still, not out of performance, out of genuine installed deference to something they understood completely and did not question. He crossed the lobby without looking at any of them. Then he saw her. A fraction of a second. Something crossed his face, quickly contained. Surprise. Something warmer than surprise. Quickly put away. He went to the elevator. The doors closed. She sat in the lobby with her portfolio on her lap, in his world, about to earn her own place in it. She straightened her spine, went up, and got the job on her own merit. Her designs turned heads quietly and then loudly. African textile influences threaded through Korean silhouettes in ways that felt inevitable. Bold structure and precise restraint. In the same garment without fighting each other, he noticed. From 10 floors up, behind glass, saying nothing, her first collection under the company's banner. She had worked on it with an intensity that surprised even her. Not to prove something, but because, for the first time in years, she had something she actually wanted to say. The collection walked. The room shifted. Then the applause. She stood backstage and felt something move through her chest. She did not have a precise word for. Not pride, something older, something planted by parents who had held her up to the light on the day she was born and said a name like a fact. Beautiful. Yes, she thought. This is what they meant. A rival executive named a number to Ryujin. He wanted her. Name his price. She is not for sale. Said without emotion, without needing the other person to agree. Soyeon, Ryujin's fiancé, was at the celebration. She watched all evening, watched his fist tighten when a man pressed too close to Imaka, watched his eyes find her across the room, watched the fraction of a second on his face. He could not fully stop. She had spent a year trying to understand what was different about him. Why the thing between them felt like standing outside a window, looking in. Now she understood. She filed it away. But later, in the car, alone, she made a decision. He called her that evening. "You did well tonight. I am proud of you." He took her somewhere quiet. They talked the way they had talked that first night, but differently, because now there was history. He told her he had been sending money to her siblings while she was in rehabilitation. The instinct to object rose immediately. He stopped her before it arrived. "This is not charity. Work hard. That is how you pay me back. I'm going to pay every coin back. I know you are." She did not know it was her birthday until it was. She had stopped marking it years ago. She told nobody. Her phone rang. His number. Happy birthday. 20 minutes later, a knock. He was standing there with a cake, a gift, and nothing else. Just him. She blew out the candles and looked up at him through the small smoke of them. "Make a wish," he said. She looked at him, made it. Opened her eyes, and he was still looking at her. The room very quiet. Something right there between them, visible, named by neither of them, taking up the entire space. His phone rang. When he turned back, the moment had rearranged itself. Not gone, but stored for later. Some weeks later, out together, music playing. Something in Imaka moved. Not the professional response, the original one. The one that had always been hers before anything happened to it. She stood up, eyes closing, not performing, just feeling it. The music moved through her the way it used to. Before everything had been taken and sold and measured, he watched her. Not the way he had watched her in the club. Not as a man watching a dancer. This version, free, present, fully herself, was something he had never seen. There was a softness in the way she moved now, a kind of joy she was not trying to hide. She opened her eyes, extended her hand. "Dance with me, not a question. Come here." For a moment, he simply looked at her hand, then he took it. They moved slowly, not really dancing, just shifting together in the quiet rhythm of the music. Closer. The space between them shrinking a little more each second. They looked at each other, the way two people look who have finally stopped pretending they are not moving toward something. There was a moment, small, suspended, where both of them understood exactly what was about to happen. She did not pull away, neither did he. He lifted a hand and touched her face very lightly, as if asking a question without using words. She leaned into it. That was the answer. The first kiss came slowly, not rushed, not taken, given. Soft at first, careful. The kind of kiss that carries more meaning than urgency. For a moment she froze, not in fear but in surprise at the unfamiliar feeling of something being gentle. Then she kissed him back, fully. The world around them seemed to fall away, the music, the room, everything. She had extended her hand first. That mattered. She had pulled him into her world for once. He had been away for 2 weeks. By the time the plane landed, he knew exactly what he wanted and who he was choosing. She opened the door and without thinking ran into his arms. He held her back differently than every time before, more certain, more permanent. "Get ready tomorrow," he said. "I am taking you somewhere. A house outside the city. Countryside that in early spring looked like something that should not exist outside a painting. 4 days. Joy, the word itself. Somewhere safe, with someone chosen, with nothing to manage and nothing to perform. They hiked. She cooked jollof rice and he watched her at the stove, and she caught him watching and did not look away. Long evenings, comfortable silences that felt like home. She was herself here, all of it present, none of it hidden. He saw all of it. Her body had only ever been a transaction. Every experience in that context had been taken, or sold, or performed, never given, never safe. She had learned to leave herself somewhere else when it happened, to simply not be in her own body. With him it was different. He did not rush, did not take. He stayed close, watching her face the way someone watches something fragile they have no intention of breaking. The first time she hesitated, he stopped immediately. No pressure, no expectation, just patience. Right here, he said quietly once, touching her hand. Stay here, stay with me, stay with yourself. She took a slow breath and stayed. The moment unfolded slowly after that, carefully, every movement deliberate. For the first time in years, she did not feel like something was being taken from her. She felt present, inside her own skin, inside the moment, safe. When it was over, she cried, not from sadness, not from regret, from something releasing that her body had forgotten it was carrying. Years of it. All at once, he did not ask questions. He simply held her, quiet, steady, until the shaking stopped. She slept afterward, still in his arms. And for the first time in years, she slept inside her own body, safe in it. The morning after she found him on a call, he hung up the moment he saw her, opened his arms. She walked straight into them. He pushed her hair back gently and studied her face the way someone studies something they have made a decision about. This is for life, he said, not a question. A fact stated so clearly, there was no room for doubt in it. She looked at him, and she believed him. Back from the countryside, Soyeon tried one final time, came to his office. There will be no wedding. The engagement is over. Is it because of her? He waited, said nothing more, just waited. She left, got in her car, picked up her phone, put the plan in motion, full force. Now, while they were in the countryside, Soyeon had not been still. She found Damon through a middleman. The middleman delivered everything, Imaka's history, her location in Seoul, and the detail that mattered most, a major charity gala, black tie, the city's most powerful people in one room. The perfect place to get to her, public, witnessed, impossible to recover from. Damon had listened. Then Damon had come to Korea. Soyeon thought she knew everything. She did not know that Ryujin already knew Imaka's past, had known for months, had been told every detail of what she survived, and had chosen her anyway, kept choosing her. She did not know that by sending Damon to Korea, she had just signed her own destruction. The Gala, the kind of event where the city's most powerful people gather in beautiful clothes to contribute to causes that make the beautiful clothes feel earned. Ryujin and Imaka arrived together. She was beautiful, not the performance, not the professional shine. This was a woman who had come through fire, carried that knowledge in the way she held her body, certain, present, entirely herself. He moved beside her, not ahead, beside. The room noticed. Then a hand on Ryujin's arm. Someone who needed 5 minutes. Urgently. Go, she said. I'm a big girl. He trusted her. He went. A staff member approached, polite, efficient. Someone wanted to see her. In the garden, she followed. She turned and saw Damon. The world stopped. Her body froze. The color drained from her face so completely she felt it happen. He was standing in the garden of a charity gala in Seoul. After everything she had climbed out of, after Dallas, after rehabilitation, After everything she had rebuilt, he was standing right there, like a ghost that had followed her across an ocean. You think you could run from me? To Korea? You owe me. Do you know how much you have cost me? He hit her. Her lips split. He grabbed at her dress, fabric tearing. She stumbled. He pulled her toward him. She fought. The reflex was still in her body, the way certain things are written into muscle rather than memory. She clawed, she twisted, and she ran, back through the corridor, back toward the lights, her lip bleeding, her dress torn. She came through the door and ran directly into Ryujin. He caught her, both hands steadying her. Then he looked at her face. He went completely still, not his usual stillness. This was something that had come up through the floor of control and cracked it open. Who did this to you? Not a question, a verdict. Damon is here. Something left his face. The calculation, the architecture, all of it departed. What remained was something older, simpler, far more dangerous. He set her carefully in the direction of his nearest man, said one word. The man understood. Then Ryujin moved. Junho saw him go. Understood immediately. He had worked beside this man for years, knew every register, every temperature. The only other time he had heard that note in Ryujin's voice was right before someone died. What happened in that garden was not elegant, not controlled, not the precise, surgical Ryujin who disposed of problems with quiet efficiency. This was something compressed for months behind the glass of a man who never showed what things cost him. His fists did not stop. Damon was on the floor, unconscious, and he did not stop. His own knuckles split, and he did not feel it. Junho and the bodyguards pulled him back. It took more than one of them. Ryujin straightened, adjusted his jacket, looked at his bleeding hands. Then he looked up, at the business partners and dignitaries processing what they had just seen. At Soyeon, her mask not quite holding, his voice quiet, final. I will destroy everyone who had a hand in this. The room did not move. Nobody spoke. Soyeon felt those words land like a hand on her shoulder, like something that knew exactly where she was standing. His men moved before the Gala had cleared. The middleman was identified within hours, found in a hotel room. Certain he had been careful enough. He had not been careful enough. He reached Soyeon before she could leave the country. No rage. With Soyeon, it was something colder. He sat across from her, eyes that had already decided everything. Every business we had together, dismantled. Every loan your family took from me, called in. Every connection, every investment, every financial arrangement your family depends on. He paused. She watched the color of her future change in real time. If I ever see you in Korea again, you will wish I had only done this. He stood, left. She sat in the apartment that would not be hers much longer. Understood that every move she had made led to this room. She had done it to herself. Soyeon left Korea. She did not come back. The guilt of those 5 minutes lived quietly in him. 5 minutes. And in those 5 minutes, she had been found. It is not your fault, she said. He looked at her with eyes not yet ready to accept that. She did not push it. Some things need time to become true, even when they already are. In America, Damon discovered that everything he had built was gone. Operation dismantled, hideouts raided, money drying up. Ryujin had never left Korea. He did not need to. His reach moved like water, invisible until the damage was done. Damon spent weeks watching everything collapse, hiding in places that kept becoming unsafe. Then one day he was walking in his old neighborhood. He noticed the car, moving slowly, keeping pace. He kept walking. told himself to keep walking. Someone called his name from behind him. He turned. The last thing he saw was a gun, then darkness. Nobody saw anything. The street was empty in every direction that mattered. That night, Imaka was asleep beside him. His phone buzzed. He eased out of bed carefully. One slow movement so as not to disturb her. Went to the study. Closed the door softly. "Boss, it is done." "Good." He hung up. Stood at the window for a moment. Said nothing. Felt nothing he would name out loud. He went back to the bedroom. He appeared in the doorway. In one hand, a tray. Coffee, something warm. He set it on the bed beside her, sat on the edge of the mattress, looked at her. She reached for the coffee. He stopped her. He reached into his pocket, set a small box on the tray between them. He had been carrying it for 3 weeks, he said, waiting for the right moment. Then he realized he was waiting because he was afraid, which was not something he had been in a very long time. He opened the box. The ring was precise, beautiful, chosen. She could see it had been thought about, not delegated. "I am not good at speeches, so I will just say it." He looked at her, completely unguarded. "Marry me." She looked at him. At this impossible, complicated, dangerous, gentle, fierce, broken, whole man, who had come running every single time, who had sat beside her on the floor, visited rehabilitation centers, set proper materials on a notepad without making a speech about it. She thought about the girl at the payphone, shaking hands. 2 words pressed into a receiver in the dark, not knowing if anyone would come. He had come. She thought about her parents, her mother holding her up to the light the day she was born, saying a name like a fact. She thought about them with the grief of people who are gone, and the grace of feeling they are not entirely absent. In the light, through windows, in the names that get chosen, in the daughters who survive things they were not supposed to survive, and come out the other side carrying something. Yes, something moved across his face that arrived before he could manage it. He lifted her out of bed, spun her once in the morning light, and he laughed, a real one, rusty and genuine and surprised out of him. The laugh of a man who had not expected to feel this and had no architecture left to put it behind. The pitch came not long after. She sat across from him in his study and set her materials down. Not a request, a proposal. "I want to build a center, a shelter and rehabilitation center in America for exploited and trafficked young women. A place that gave them what she had never had. Someone on the other side waiting. Real resources, real pathways out. Scholarship programs for girls coming out of rehabilitation who had dreams before everything fell apart. I am asking you to invest, not to give, to invest, because I intend to build something that justifies it." He looked at her for a long moment. "I know you do." Yes. She went back to America to build it. The first center opened in the city where she had once run from a payphone in the dark. That was deliberate. Girls came through. Some of them were where she had been. Some further gone. Some so young that the fact of their presence was a specific kind of grief. She had to learn to hold without letting it paralyze her. She held it. She did the work anyway. Scholarship recipients began applying to universities. Acceptances came back. 1 center became 5, 5 became 20, and Lydia left behind on the night of the escape, because the escape was not a plan, it was a moment. Imaka had never stopped looking. When she was released from prison, Imaka found her within weeks. She did not make a speech. She just showed up. Lydia became a manager at one of the centers. That friendship, which had started in the darkest place either of them had ever been, came out the other side into something that saved lives. The recognition event was held in the spring, a formal state ceremony, the governor present. The kind of room that represented the official acknowledgement of something that had already been true in the world for some time. As the governor spoke, describing the work, the scholarships, what had been built, she sat with what she had quietly made of her life. She thought about Namdi and Chisholm. In America now, both of them thriving, building their own futures. They knew their sister had fought for them. That was enough. She thought about her grandmother in Nigeria. Comfortable, well taken care of. That woman had held everything together when the plane took both parents at once. She would want for nothing, not for a single day, for the rest of her life. She thought about the payphone, the worn card, the shaking hands, the rehabilitation center, the cord and the knots, the first sketch on a notepad, the countryside, the morning after, the ring, her today, this room, this podium. The governor called her name. She stood at the podium and told the truth. I came to America to become a doctor. I came with a folder of drawings and a plan and the belief that if you worked hard enough, the math would eventually work. The math did not work, and the wrong person found me at exactly the right moment. The room was completely still. She told them the shape of it, the club, the drugs, the year that was taken, the card she kept on her body for 12 months because she needed to believe that one phone call could change the direction of a life. I never became a doctor. I used to grieve that. I carried it as a failure. The plan I had made for my parents, the thing I was supposed to build in their memory. I understand now that the plan was never about medicine. The plan was always about this, about building something, about going back. I just did not know the road would look like this. She took one breath. Before I finish, I want to speak to my husband. He gave me a card once, told me I could call if I ever needed anything. I held onto that card for a year through the worst moments of my life. And when I finally called, he came. No questions, no conditions. He just came. He has been coming ever since. He invested in this work. He believed in this vision when it was still just me at a table with something to prove. He has stood beside me every single day. She found him in the crowd, seated near the back, present the way he had always been present. Her voice dropped, just for him. Baby, thank you for everything. I love you so much. His jaw tightened. He looked down for just a moment, something moving through him he could not entirely contain. Then he looked back up at her. There was not a dry eye in that room. She stepped down from the podium. He was already moving toward her, not pushing, just moving with the certainty of a man who knows where he is going. She walked into him, his arms around her, both of them still for a moment while the room celebrated around them. She found him one evening in the quiet part of the day, the part that belonged only to them. Can we go home now? Home was Korea. The work would continue from anywhere she stood. But home was where he was. He looked at her, that rare, almost smile. Let us go home. Her hand in his. She looked up at the sky, the way she used to look at it before she went in. Every night, outside that door, looking up at the open air, at something that had no ceiling, no walls, no hands on it. The sky looked completely different now, not because it had changed, because she had. If this story moved you, share it with someone who needs to hear it today. Subscribe so you never miss what we put out. And if you are still here, you already know what Imaka proved. It is never the end.